hit record for you. Okay, you got it.
Okay, amazing. So you guys caught me with my hat on over here as I'm driving place to place. How's the
Love it.
beard, guys? Okay, the beard passes the test.
The
You do.
beard passes the test.
You're really looking the part these days.
Yeah,
I'm surprised it's as short as it is. If
I
I
am
had
too,
gone that
actually.
long,
my beard,
I'd be
my
like,
beard, it grows straight out. So like Sonic the Hedgehog.
nice.
So it doesn't get it gets like a different kind of thick. It's annoying, but like my bottom lip is all chapped up from like the spikes digging into it.
Yeah,
But look, it's a time of sorrow and a time of reflection. So look, if it takes me getting some spikes in the lip, to get me in the right space,
that's
that's
fair.
what we got to do.
That's
Hey,
What we got
fair.
to do.
yeah, you got one more day, Rav. You got one more day.
All right. So we have tomorrow night at this time. Will be people will be getting ready to do the Ma'ariv, almost time for the Ma'ariv service, which will lead reading one of the five Megillos. So everyone's used to hearing about the Megillah, the Book of Esther, but there's actually five different Megillos. The Song of Songs, right? Shir Hashirim. We have this, which is I'll just pop that in my head, is Ecclesiastes. Then you have Eicha, which we read tomorrow night, which we'll get to that in a second. And we have the book of Rus. Megillas Rus is the book of Ruth. So Eicha is the one that we read tomorrow night. We sit on the floor. We turn down the lights inside of the sanctuary. We turn down the lights. Very often people will actually light little candles and they'll read it by the light of a candle, really trying to do all those physical things that we could possibly do to get us in the right space, get us into a space of mourning, get us into a space where we remove a lot of the physical distractions that we have, where we don't focus on those things. So we're going to fast. We're going to change our shoes. We're not going to wear leather shoes. We're going to switch over to non-leather shoes, just like a mourner would do in the Shiva house. But we don't greet each other. If somebody greets you, you can acknowledge them. But we try to do these different things that we can do because we know, just like we make Kiddush Friday night, right? We make Kiddush on a cup of wine. Why do we do that? Because as human beings, God knows, Hashem knows that we need to do physical things to help us get into the right space. That's how God created us. So to get in the holiness, the holy space of Shabbos, we go ahead and we light candles, and we go ahead and we make Kiddush, and we eat good food, right? That's supposed to help us get into the right space, the Shabbos space. For a day like Tisha Bav, we go ahead and pull back a little bit as we try to get into that mourning zone. Okay, so what are some of the things that we're mourning, right? What are we mourning? So we know ultimately we're mourning the catastrophes that took place 2,000 plus years ago, but not really just that. And that's what I really want to focus on tonight, and how partially we'll connect it a little bit to this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is called Vaeschanaan. Vaeschanaan. And in there, we actually say the Shema. We have the Shema. And we also have the Ten Commandments. Okay? And there's some amazing other verses. Obviously, all verses are amazing and fantastic. But we have some other verses in there that are quoted by many of the commentaries and many of the writings over the years to talk about the uniqueness of the Jewish people and the uniqueness of our relationship with God, our leaving Egypt and how special that really was, how unique that was, how we were a nation taken from amongst another nation. And we still see that to today, right? The land of Israel, obviously, our land, a place for the Jewish people. But really, wherever we are amongst the world, whether things are good or bad, and, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever's going on in general, we've always kind of been to ourselves. There's something different about us that kind of separates us from the crowd. And whenever we don't do that, it's usually when we get in trouble. When we don't do that, when we try to mix too much in and we try to fit in too much, it's usually when we get ourselves in trouble. And that's one of the verses the Torah talks about over here. It talks about, Nisa Elokim, God took us out, a nation from amongst the nation. We were in Egypt for a long time, but we came out as a full nation from within a nation, and we had our uniqueness to us. We dressed differently. We talked differently. Our names were different. That's how it goes. That's how the Jewish people do things. I do this to Miriam all the time. I'm like, we're traveling somewhere, and I'm like, that's a Jew. And Miriam's like, how do you know? Come on. I'm like, I'm telling you, they're Jewish, right? And Miriam's like, no, come on. I was like, it's not the base. Like, I'm like, no, it's not just the nose. There's something there, right? We know it, we feel it, we can see it, we can smell it, right? There's just
I
something,
think many of us have that radar built in. Yes,
right?
I concur. I felt that feeling. Not always, but there are times where it's very very clear without visual or auditory cues. Oh, did we
Now,
lose him?
no, one
Hello?
second. Are we good?
We're good.
Okay, no. So I pulled up near my house, so the Wi-Fi grabbed it.
Got it.
Okay, so that's something from the Torah portion that we speak about, and one of the things I really wanted to try to focus on. One of the things I really want to focus on is the what exactly, we're not just in this 2,000 years ago mode. There's been stuff that's happened to the Jewish people throughout all generations ever since then. And what is something that we could kind of focus on to go ahead and have us get into the right space? What can we focus on over the course of the next day and a half, 2 days, right, to really help us really connect? And what exactly is it? So in regards to mourning the temple, so yeah, it's a little challenging, right? Because we never saw the temple. So we don't know exactly what that means. That what is it that we're missing, right? What are we missing? I never saw the temple, right? Okay, I've been to the Kotel, I've been to the Western Wall, right? Western Wall, and maybe that gave me a feel for the magnificence, right? How majestic it must have been. If we're only getting to see a little sliver of this old amazing wall. Okay, that doesn't tell me much about what's going on inside that wall. And if I'm pretty learned and I've gone through parts of the Torah and I'm able to study the parts of the Torah that talk about what the temple looked like and what the Mishkan looked like and how amazing the altar must have been and the different kinds of offerings and things like that. Okay, so I can kind of imagine. I can use my imagination, right? Just my imagination, right? I can use my imagination to go ahead and create a pretty decent picture for myself, what that must have been like. But how's it going to get me into a space of mourning, right? What exactly am I supposed to do? So the way that I really feel about it, personally, and I'm going to send the link out to one of my colleagues in Memphis, Rabbi Shuki Nisan. He gives a phenomenal class. He gave a beautiful, just tremendous. I might end up, just because I listened to it, I was so moved by it, I might share little tidbits from it. But if you get a chance, whether it's before, on, after, listen to his class. He really brings it to life and gives 3 practical approaches to what exactly it means to connect to the holiday, right? Which ultimately we call it a holiday because when Mashiach comes, when things are where they're supposed to be, then it's going to be a celebration. And there's still enough time. There's still time. We still could celebrate together a holiday of Tisha Bav as opposed to a sad fasting day of Tisha Bav. We got time. It can happen. We got to believe that it can happen. But what exactly is it? What am I supposed to try to come away with? What can I think about? So the first thing, which I've shared in the past, perhaps, and one thing I think about for myself, very practical, in a very practical way. I have no doubt that there are things in this world right now that we don't need to share them. Everyone can have their own things, right? That pertain to them. But there are things in this world that we truly wish were different. And we know they're supposed to be different. We know they're supposed to be different. It's just, it can't be that this is ultimately what God wanted for the world. It can't be so. Well, guess what caused that? Guess what caused that? us being in exile, us being without a Beis Hamikdash, without that closeness and physical manifestation of God in this world, that's what brings these things about. If there was a clarity, if God was able to be here in a clear, open fashion for us and for the world, this world would look very, very different. And all the challenges that are there, and all the sicknesses that are there, and all the sadness and the grief and the catastrophe and the tragedy, natural disasters, all these things are all part of the fact that we do not have that level of relationship with God. And God can't be in that place right now based off of what mankind has done and created or continues to do. He can't do that. He wants us, right? It's almost like it's very challenging because, right, we get sent into exile to go ahead and work on becoming closer to God. Does that make sense? Not really, but it does. We need some separation in order for us to work on the relationship. But God goes into exile with us, we're taught. God is with us in our exile. God did us the biggest favor ever by not destroying us when he destroyed the temples. He took it out on bricks and stones and dirt. That's what God took it out on. Now, yes, there was a lot of people that died, and there was tragedy that took place that came along with it. But ultimately, God did not destroy the Jewish people. We're still here. Believe me, the world complains about us all the time. They know we're here, and we know we're here. And the reason we're here is because we have a mission to do. So part of that sadness, or part of what we're trying to connect to, we're trying to understand a little bit, to feel it, is to connect to that sadness. Like, this is not the way it's supposed to be. And if we actually can get ourselves to work on a relationship with God and to bringing more light into the world, which will allow God's awareness and oneness and beauty to be expressed to the world, then all this stuff, all these things that are so troublesome and so sad and so hard to understand are going to be gone. That's what part of what we're missing. And that's in regards to the world around us. And I'm sure we can start thinking about our own lives, our own personal challenges that we have. Right? So that's a major, major component of what this day is about. We're not supposed to be depressed. It's not a depressing day. Let me get depressed about all these bad things. No. It's about being distressed about it, but it's about spending a day of focusing on, oh my goodness, what could this world be like if we were to remove all these things? What are things that we can do to go ahead and bring more light into the world? To bring more of an awareness of God, to make the world a place where God says, yeah, I could be there with you. I can physically be there with you. Right now, the way the world is, it can't be. We're taught from the Talmud that one of the main reasons that the temple was destroyed was because of what we call sinas chinam, baseless hatred. So we need baseless love. Every person is in this world for a reason. Everyone's in this world for a reason. Why would I hate somebody? Why would I have strong feelings against somebody? Yes, they may have slighted me. But very often when there's that, it's because I have a problem with them, or they're getting in my space, in my way. They're not allowing me to do my thing. Guess what? Them doing their thing. I was just listening to a phenomenal, I forgot his last name right now. I can't listen to a lot of his stuff because he's too much of a potty mouth for me. Gary V, I think they call him.
Gary
Okay.
Vaynerchuk. That
Yeah.
guy?
So
Vaynerchuk?
he has so many. I'm not here on this to blast him, what he's sharing is amazing. He's giving over that every single person, like we talk about birthdays in the past, right? The Rabbi Nachman talked about what's the point of a birthday? A birthday is a celebration of the day that God decided the world can no longer exist without you. That's the anniversary of it. But really, every single day that we wake up and we're alive and part of this world is because God needs us here. He wants us here. And we have something to accomplish here. And what I have to accomplish isn't necessarily dependent on somebody else. And just because that guy got $1 million deal, what does that have to do with the fact that I get $1 million, can or can't get $1 billion deal? It has nothing to do with it. If I'm supposed to become a millionaire, a billionaire, just because he became that, that's got nothing to do with what God's plan is for me. If God wants Noach to become a millionaire, it has nothing to do with the fact that Shmerel became a millionaire also. God has a plan for each person. And very often we make the mistake of what they're doing and why they're doing, right, is somehow dependent on me or somehow infringing, right? It's getting in my way of accomplishing my. No, what's really happening is we're being lazy a little bit or not being honest with ourselves, and we're trying to find a way to cover up our own failings so we spend time getting upset at the other person. I was just talking to somebody, and they were telling me about a conversation they had with somebody, they felt so bad for this person. Their entire conversation was about how comparing themselves to somebody else and how they're better than them, right? How they're better than them, right? Living our lives in a space of comparing my life to somebody else's is a very sad place to be. So this is what Tisha Bav is about. Tisha Bav, one way to connect with Tisha Bav is look around us, look around the world, and recognize that if we had the Beis HaMikdash, if we had the temple, if we brought more light into the world and allowed space for God, if we got out of the way of our egos and made more space for God, then the world would look so different. This is a very basic level of how to look at this, how to look at Tisha B'Av, how to look at this experience of the fast. So I'm going to send, when I send this back out, I'll send it out with a link to Rabbi Nissan's class. I highly recommend listening to it. I really, and if it's a little bit too much Hebrew, then reach out to me. Just text me, like, what does that word mean? Or I'll give you his number. You could text him and ask him, what did that word mean? Okay? I'm telling you, it really will help. He paints a beautiful picture of what Tisha B'Av can be, what Mashiach coming could look like, what things could look like, and how amazing it is, and how to connect to it in a very practical fashion. So God willing, to whatever degree we're going to physically connect with the day of Tisha B'Av, for fasting, we have the ability to fast. That's an amazing thing. Fast all of it, fast part of it. All right, it's a tremendous. It'll help us get into that space. Let us take away some of the joys, because it helps us to get into a better headspace. Not a day for for parties, right? It's not a day for parties. It's not that kind of day,
Party.
right? It's a day to give a time of reflection, a time of connection. Because when we remove those things on the outside, we have the ability to connect with ourselves in a much, much deeper way. So we want to connect with ourselves. We do want to connect with others in a positive fashion. That's something that we need to do on this day. It doesn't mean to be reaching out and be overly friendly, because that will take away from our ability to focus on the morning component. Okay, but it's a day to reflect, how are we going to deal with others? If you're looking for some other sources, how to connect to the holiday, obviously reach out. I'll send out a few more sources. There's videos all day long of stuff going on. TorahAnyone.com, I think is what it is. And I can share those links also. And it's just an amazing opportunity, a real opportunity to connect. Okay, so everyone should have an amazing, meaningful fast day. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And I'll send this recording out to those who couldn't make it. And we will end recording. And if you have any comments or questions, we can do that too.